Okay, so today I thought it would be really fun to take you around the farm while we have a break in the stormy weather and show you some of my favorite trees that are doing their grand thing right now. So these are crabapple trees. And earlier this spring, when I was doing research about them, I read an article in the RHS that called them a tree for all seasons. And I couldn't agree more. So in the spring, crabapples are just like a cloud of blossoms, and they provide nectar and pollen for pollinators. Then in the summer, they start to produce these little tiny fruit. So depending on the tree, the fruit are tiny, like little bead size, or some of them are the size of golf balls. Then in the autumn, you can see the fruit starts to change color. Aren't these just absolutely stunning? And then the leaves also turn color. So you just get this like kaleidoscope of magnificent fall color. And then in the winter, many of the varieties keep their fruit on the branches. So you'll see this beautiful bare skeleton without any leaves on it, but there are lots of fruit hanging on. And the songbirds can come and eat off of those throughout the winter months. And really, of all the different trees, we've planted hundreds and hundreds of trees here on the farm. I would say that crabapples to me are the very best ones that we've planted. And I've been collecting them, and I'm now up to 94 individual varieties of crabapples. And I've got about, it's over 150 trees in total of crabs here on the farm. So I thought I would show you some of my very favorite. And then over on the blog, you can find a list of all 94 varieties and which nurseries I ordered them from. I've also listed out all of my favorite mail order nurseries. And then if you're local to Western Washington, some of our favorite nurseries here. So if you're looking for trees, you can find where they're at. And then you can also see where I got different stuff. And then also shared my top 7. I tried to narrow it to 5, but I couldn't. Top 7 so far crabapples and why I think they're great. So I thought I'd show you just a handful of my favorites right now, and then just encourage you to go over the blog and just dork out if you're interested in crabapples. So this is what we call Crabapple Alley, and this was designed and planted when Becky Crowley was here from England helping us to develop the farm. And this Crabapple Alley, we have 2 of them. I'll show you the other one. Is filled with Evereste crabapples, and these are a French variety that have double flowers in the spring, so big pink buds open to creamy white flowers, super highly fragrant. The trees are totally disease resistant, and in the summer their fruit are green, then they turn to orange in the late summer, early autumn, and then they turn this beautiful kind of orangey cranberry red in the fall. And they make an excellent cut flower because the fruit does not fall from the branch. The trees are, I think, a nice size. They don't get too big, but they're also not too small. So these are what they call a semi-dwarf. And I think it's a really nice size. These have been in the ground for 4 or 5 years, and we planted them. They were about as tall as me, but they were just a whip with a few branches. And if I could only plant one crabapple, if I could only have one, narrow it down from 94 varieties, hands down, it would be this one. So if you can find it, it's very hard to find now, which I don't know why, because it's so special. But this would definitely be it. This is Crabapple Alley number 2, and this was planted at the exact same time as the other Crabapple Alley, but these are a different variety of tree. So this is a crabapple called Golden Raindrops. And it is also a top favorite of all the ones we're growing. I think this is a real standout. So some of the things that are wonderful about it, it has very unusual maple shaped leaves, which are not common for an apple. Like you wouldn't expect that to be an apple leaf. The fall foliage is gold. And then as soon as the leaves drop, you can see they leave behind these little tiny bead size golden fruit. And then what I love is when the little water droplets freeze on them, they look like little glass beads sparkling in the fall and winter days. They're so beautiful. It's the last to flower, and of all of the trees that we're growing, I would say this is the most loved by the honeybees. Across the cutting garden, 300 feet away, you can actually hear this row of trees humming. There's so much life here. So we have them planted they're kind of staggered, but you can see they're getting really big. So they're gonna need a little bit of pruning. They're larger than we expected. But if you've got space and you like yellow, the other thing is they have star-shaped blooms, not the typical rounded petal, but they're actually pointed. It's a very, very beautiful tree. There's so many great things about it, but it is a monster. This little cutie is called Golden Hornet, and this is another yellow fruited variety. This one was really hard to find trees for. It's very popular in England, but not as popular here in the United States. So these trees have been in the ground for about 2 years, and you can see how vigorous they are. They're really getting going. And they also fruit at a very young age. So look at the bounty. I should have thinned these a little bit more. This is a lot to put on a small tree, but really a beautiful tree. And they also, they develop their fruit and color up early in the season. So this is a cool one for cutting if you like yellow fruit, and it's a very, very vigorous. This is another tree that I absolutely love. This is called Sargent or Sargentii. And it is, what's so great about it is the size of it. So it's not a very big tree. So if you have a small garden, it's going to be a much more manageable size. We have them planted here in the hedgerows, and they are, one of the things I love the most about it is the color of the flowers. So if you are a flower grower, flower farmer, and you're looking for a variety that has really nice blossoms, these ones actually have a peachy pink bud, and then they open to kind of a creamy champagne bloom. So this one is like no other color of any other crabapple that I've grown for cut flowers. I mean, the flowering window isn't super long, but it's very special. And then in the autumn, well, actually late summer, they start to make these beautiful little tiny red fruit, and you can cut them very early. They're one of the earliest to make nice colorful fruit, but you can see they're already starting to shrivel, which is great because now the songbirds can come along. They're starting to ferment, and you'll see the little robins and little chickadees sitting here, and then their little beak eating these, and it's just like the best little snack for the songbirds. We have apples planted a lot of different ways, or crabapples and apples, but we have them in hedgerows, we have them in crabapple alleys, we have them just, you know, beautiful, like standing out in the middle of an open space, and we also have them planted in rows for eating. And these are the varieties that are more suitable for eating. So this is our orchard that we planted when we got the farm. So these trees are probably 7 years old, and interspersed with the apples and plums and pears are a bunch of crabapples. And they're really good varieties like Wixon, Centennial, Dalgo, things that are chestnut. These are all like, they make a nice sized fruit. They're good for eating fresh and for like jelly and canning. But then over here, these are some what they call apple crabs that are, they're kind of a larger sized crabapple that have the culinary qualities of an apple but the size of a crabapple. And these are the series that are called the Sweetmeat crabapples. They were bred by a man many years ago named Albert Eder. And if you just look up Sweetmeat crabapples and look up Green Mantle Nursery, you can read the whole history of Albert Eder and all of the amazing work that he did. And then Ram at Green Mantle saved these from extinction, had them in commerce for many years, and he passed away 2 or 3 years ago, and these were almost lost. But thankfully, Trees of Antiquity picked them up and rescued them, and now we can get trees ourselves. So I planted almost 50 of them in this area. It's all of the different varieties that were bred by Eder. But if you just want to like have some beautiful winter reading to be inspired, to read about history, and to just nerd out about crabapples, look these up. They're definitely worth adding to your garden. The last stop on the tour, so this is the meadow, and this is a big, I think we've got 3 or 4 acres out here that is devoted to wildflowers and different grasses, just a nesting spot for songbirds and like food source for pollinators. But in amongst the wildflowers and grasses, we have planted crabapples. So all of these are on standard rootstock, meaning they're going to get quite large. And there are, I think, about 75 trees out here, all different types, and they're very young. Like we planted them last winter, so they're getting caught up. But you can see they're doing really good. I'm really happy with them. Yeah, this space is meant to be kind of more wild. So we also have some rambling roses out here, and these are kind of more hardy, tough trees. These are less about being a culinary quality tree, but actually something more for wildlife, for songbirds and chipmunks and squirrels and things, not chipmunks, but squirrels to come and eat the fruit. So yeah, that's the last stop on our tour. I wish I had more that were actually fruiting that I could show you, but most of them have already dropped or we've eaten them, and our trees are still kind of young. But if you want to read all about the different sources that I got the trees from and why they're so great, supporting small family nurseries is like the best thing you can do to keep them in business. So I've shared all of my favorite places that we got trees over the years. Also shared my 94 varieties that we're growing here on the farm and where I got them from. And then again, the top 7 that are my favorites so far, and why I think they're great, and just more resources about it. So if you want to nerd out on crabapples or consider adding them to your garden, there's more information.